What if I told you there was once an NFL team so dominant they achieved the unthinkable: perfection? The year was 1972, and the Miami Dolphins were on the verge of making sports history. But this isn't just the story of one incredible season. It's the saga of a franchise that has experienced soaring highs, devastating lows, and enough controversies to fill a playbook. At the heart of this journey lies the only undefeated team in NFL history, a feat so rare no other franchise has replicated it. But what did it take for the Dolphins to conquer the league? And why has it been so difficult for them to regain that level of dominance? In this video, we'll explore the rise of a dynasty, from the perfect season that cemented their legacy to the struggles and missteps that followed. We'll dive deep into the controversies that shaped the team's identity, the heartbreaks that tested their resilience, and the pivotal moments that defined this iconic franchise. From the triumphs of the 70s to the turbulence of today, this is the untold story of the Miami Dolphins, perfection and beyond. Before we dive in, we just want to say thank you for your support. If you enjoy content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you more great sports stories. Now let's jump into the story. The Miami Dolphins were born in 1966 as part of the American Football League, AFL, and like most expansion teams, they struggled to find their footing. The early years were rough. The team posted losing records, with each season ending in disappointment. But in 1970, everything changed when the Dolphins made a move that would alter the course of NFL history. They hired Don Shula. Shula was already a proven coach, having led the Baltimore Colts to multiple playoff appearances and even a Super Bowl. However, a devastating loss in Super Bowl III, where his Colts were heavy favorites, left a burning desire for redemption. When Shula arrived in Miami, he took over a team that had potential but lacked direction. His approach was different. He demanded discipline, toughness, and absolute commitment from his players. In just his second season with the Dolphins, Shula's methods began to pay off. The team reached the Super Bowl in 1971, but their championship hopes were dashed by the Dallas Cowboys. Still, this loss only strengthened Shula's resolve. He wasn't just building for one championship, he had a bigger plan in mind: to create a dynasty. Under Shula's leadership, key players like quarterback Bob Greasy, fullback Larry Sonka, and wide receiver Paul Warfield became household names. The Dolphins' defense, dubbed the no-name defense due to their lack of individual stars, became one of the most feared units in the league. The offense, meanwhile, developed into one of the most balanced attacks in football. But for Shula, regular season success wasn't enough. To be great, the Dolphins had to do something extraordinary. They had to be perfect. And soon, perfection was on the horizon. Little did anyone know, the 1972 season would make history, but the road to glory would be anything but smooth. The 1972 season was the culmination of everything Don Shula had been working towards. From the very first game, it was clear that this Miami Dolphins team was special. They were unbeatable, but their road to perfection was anything but easy. The season began with an injury blow to their star quarterback, Bob Grease, who broke his ankle in Week 5. For most teams, losing their starting quarterback would signal the end of their championship hopes. But Shula had prepared his team for adversity. Veteran backup quarterback Earl Morrall, who had played under Shula in Baltimore, stepped in to keep the Dolphins' undefeated season alive. Morrall's steady leadership and experience helped guide the team through the regular season. But there was always uncertainty about whether the Dolphins could truly go all the way without their star signal caller. The Dolphins finished the regular season a perfect 14-0, but their doubters remained. The media downplayed their accomplishments, questioning whether they had been truly tested against top-tier competition. Even within the team, there were moments of doubt. Yet, the Dolphins persevered through every challenge, buoyed by Shula's vision and the relentless determination of their players. In the playoffs, the stakes rose even higher. The Dolphins faced the Cleveland Browns and narrowly escaped with a victory, winning 20-14. Their next challenge was the AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, a tough team with a reputation for physicality. But with Bob Grease returning from injury and the defense playing lights out, the Dolphins once again emerged victorious, punching their ticket to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl VII would be their final test. The Dolphins faced off against the Washington Redskins, and while the game didn't turn out to be the offensive showcase some had expected, the Dolphins' defense stole the show. Miami won the game by 14-7, completing the only perfect season in NFL history, by 17-0. It was a feat that had never been done before and hasn't been repeated since. Yet, even in victory, there was controversy. In the final moments of the Super Bowl, Dolphins kicker Garo Yepremian attempted a bizarre and failed pass after a blocked field goal, nearly giving the Redskins a chance to come back. Though the Dolphins held on to win, that play remains one of the strangest and most discussed moments in NFL history. With their Super Bowl victory, the 1972 Dolphins secured their place as the only team to achieve perfection. But their story didn't end there. After their perfect season, the Miami Dolphins were flying high. The 1973 season saw them return to the Super Bowl, where they defeated the Minnesota Vikings by 24-7 to win their second consecutive championship. Don Shula's Dolphins had now established themselves as a dynasty with back-to-back Super Bowl victories and a record that no other team could match. But as the years went on, the reality of maintaining such dominance began to set in. As the mid-1970s arrived, the Dolphins started to feel the effects of injuries, retirements, and roster changes. Key players like Larry Csonka, Paul Warfield, and Jim Keehick left the team to join the newly formed World Football League, WFL, a blow that weakened the Dolphins' core. Though the team remained competitive, the dynasty was fading. The late 1970s were marked by frustration and missed opportunities. Despite having one of the league's best defenses, the Dolphins were unable to recapture their former glory. They reached the playoffs a few times but failed to make it back to the Super Bowl. One of the most controversial moments came during the 1977 season, when the Dolphins traded away quarterback Bob Grease, a decision that would haunt the franchise. By the time the 1980s rolled around, the once mighty Dolphins were in a period of transition. Don Shula remained at the helm, but the team struggled to find the same consistency that had defined them in the early part of the decade. However, the arrival of a new star would soon offer hope for a return to greatness. The 1980s brought a glimmer of hope for the Miami Dolphins in the form of Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Marino's quick release, cannon arm, and football intelligence quickly turned him into a superstar, and under Don Shula's guidance, the Dolphins once again became contenders. In 1984, Marino shattered numerous records and led the Dolphins to Super Bowl XIX. However, despite Marino's brilliance, the team fell short against the San Francisco 49ers and their legendary quarterback, Joe Montana. As the years went on, the Dolphins continued to field competitive teams, but they never managed to reclaim the ultimate prize, a Super Bowl championship. Marino's era ended without a title, and the Dolphins entered the 2000s searching for a new identity. Ownership changes, coaching shakeups, and roster instability all played a part in the team's struggles. Despite the highs and lows, recent years have shown signs of life. Under new head coaches and promising young talent, the Dolphins are working to restore their legacy. Although they haven't reached the heights of the 1972 season, the franchise continues its journey to regain the glory of its past and build a brighter future. The legacy of the 1972 Miami Dolphins remains one of the most enduring stories in NFL history. To this day, no other team has matched their feat of perfection. Every season, when the last undefeated team loses, members of that legendary Dolphins squad famously celebrate, knowing their place in history remains secure. But the story of the Dolphins is more than just about one perfect season. It's about resilience, overcoming adversity, and the quest for greatness. From their back-to-back championships in the early 70s to the heartbreak of the post-Shula years, the Dolphins' journey has been one of triumphs and trials. As the team continues its efforts to return to the top, one thing is clear. The Miami Dolphins will always be remembered as the team that did what no one else could. They achieved perfection. And while the road ahead may be uncertain, the legacy of that 1972 season continues to inspire new generations of players and fans alike. Want to see more iconic sports stories like this? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video for more deep dives into the greatest teams in history. See you in next video.